Welcome back to You Can Understand Shakespeare, because the fact of the matter is, you can, so long as you overcome the 3 Ps that prevent all of us from fully diving into his works. Performance, poetry, prior knowledge. This is a script. It's written in poetry, and it knows a lot more than we do. But that is why I am here. So get yourself a good copy with lots of footnotes and annotations, and embark with me on this. Act 1, Scene 4 of Hamlet. Hamlet is on his way to see the ghost of his father. What if you could see an individual, a beloved family member that you miss dearly? And what if that person had the answer probably to all of your current problems? That is what Hamlet is entering into today. He's a very, very depressed individual who cannot stand what is happening in his life. Let's see what he dives into here in Act 1, Scene 4. Enter Hamlet, his friend Horatio, and Marcellus, who's a guard. Hamlet remarks, "The air bites shrewdly, it is very cold, and sharply." Horatio, "It is a nipping and an eager air." Hamlet asks, "What hour now?" Horatio, "I think it lacks of 12, it's just before 12. And Marcellus says, "No, it is struck, as in the clock has struck 12. "Indeed? I heard it not. It then draws near the season wherein the spirit held his wont to walk." Held his wont was accustomed to walk. So it's approaching that hour, that season, when the spirit is often going about walking, which we know is around midnight. A flourish of trumpets and 2 pieces, 2 cannons, go off. And he asks, "What does this mean, my lord?" He asks, "The sound, what happened?" Hamlet says, "The king," this is King Claudius, "doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassail, and the swaggering upspring reels," which means that he revels and carouses rather than sleeping. He has a drinking party, which is wassail, which is wassailing. You often maybe hear that in a little bit of older Christmas carols, like "Here we come a wassailing among the trees, the wreaths, so green," something. This isn't a Christmas carol breakdown. This is a Shakespeare. So he's a drinking party, and he staggers, he reels through a wild German dance. So the King Claudius is up all night. As he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, which is Rhine wine from the river Rhine. The kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge, which is that his success in draining his cup upon making a toast. So he's having a big party. Horatio asks, "Is it a custom?" Hamlet, "Aye, marry, is it. But, to my mind, though I am native here, and to the manner born, to the custom born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than in the observance." Which means that it's more honored in being broken than in being observed, having this party. "This heavy-headed revel, east and west, make us traduced and taxed of other nations. They clep us drunkards," meaning they call us drunkards, and with swinish phrase, swinish being like of pigs, and with a piggish phrase, soil our addition, our reputation, and indeed it takes from our achievements. Though performed at height, being most excellently achieved, all the things that we contribute to the world, the pith, which is heart, and marrow of our attribute, the attributed glory. So often it chances in particular men that for some vicious mole of nature in them, and that mole of nature means one natural blemish that tends to vice. So in particular men, in individual men, there's one small vice in them, as in their birth, wherein they are not guilty. So that they're just sort of born with. Since nature cannot choose his origin, human nature cannot choose where it comes from, by their o'ergrowth of some complexion, a disproportionate amount of one humor, an unbalanced personality, oft breaking down the pales and forts of reason, or by some habit that too much o'erleavens the form of plausive manners, that changes the whole effect of an otherwise pleasing manner for the worst. That these men, and again, the men that he's referring to are these particular men that have one particular mole of nature in them. So some part of their personality they have been born with, they couldn't choose this. That these men, carrying, I say, the stamp of one defect, being nature's livery or fortune's star, meaning having a congenital defect, the livery, the clothing is given by nature, livery is clothing, or a blemish caused by fortune, which is the cause of the stars. Because stars are fate, fortune, think astrology. His virtues else, be they as pure as grace, as infinite as a man may undergo, shall in the general censor, the public opinion, take corruption from that particular fault. So, this is a long way of saying that just as an individual man, despite having all of these virtues, and despite having a personality defect that's not his fault, he was born with it, or it was given to him by fate itself. Even if he has all these virtues, the public opinion will focus on that individual fault. This is a very drawn out comparison to the state. Whereas he's been complaining that this big feast that the king is up carousing with, all the other nations judge them as drunkards and completely forget all of their other virtues because of this one fault. It says, the dram of eel doth all the noble substance of a doubt to his own scandal. So a dram is a tiny amount. It's an eighth of an ounce. Shame. Okay, great. Enter the ghost, Horatio. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what the dram of eel doth all the noble substance of a doubt to his own scandal. So the dram of eel, let's see what eel is. That helps. I actually don't have a footnote for what eel means. And so that's why it's so important to have good footnotes, because this entire line is lost to me simply because I don't know a definition. Now, oftentimes when you don't know the definition of something, you can kind of pick up context clues, and worst comes to worst, just keep reading. You'll figure it out. All right, so when we're looking at the eel, what an eel is, E-A-L-E, it could be referring to a mythical African beast similar to a rhinoceros or a Yale. My phone is being very particular right now. Goodness gracious. This is frustrating. Okay. So, an eel, it's another word for ale. So, a dram of ale. Great. So, a dram, an eighth of ale, doth all the noble substance of a doubt. It does all the noble substance of a doubt to his own scandal. So it gives doubt's substance to his own scandal, the one who drinks of the ale. Essentially, they are accused of being a drunkard, so even just a tiny bit of drinking ale accuses one of drunkenness, which is exactly what him and his nation are being accused of. And so all that hung upon just the fact that I didn't know what an eel was. So sometimes that's all it really takes, is you just need to know one word, and that will open up all the rest of it for you. And that's why it's so important to have such good footnotes. That's one that I would have liked to have had in my book, so I would not have had to go to my phone for that. At any rate, enters the ghost, right in the midst of Hamlet's complaining about the nation. He says, "Look, my lord, it comes." And Hamlet cries out, "Angels and ministers of grace," those who are ministers of grace, priests, saints, etc., "defend us. Be thou," and then he addresses the spirit, "be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned, bring with thee airs from heaven or blast from hell." So they don't know if this is a holy saint appearing or if it's some type of demonic creature. So whether you are a spirit of health or a goblin, that you bring airs, gentle breeze from heaven, or blasts from hell, pestilent gusts, be thy intents wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. C-O-M''ST is that you come, right? You have approached with this, all right? And that's often why it's really important to read Shakespeare out loud, because you read that and you go, I don't know what this word is. But with context and by speaking aloud, it's just, thou comest, you have come here, in a questionable shape, meaning your appearance. He says, I'll call thee Hamlet, king, father, royal Dane, because that is his father's name. Oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones. Canonized can mean consecrated, but also you would canonize a saint. So he remember, Hamlet thinks very fondly, very highly of his father. So his canonized bones could be the bones of a saint. Hearsed in death, a hearse is coffined. So tell me why your holy bones, coffined in death, have burst their cerements, their grave clothes. Why the sepulchre, the tomb, wherein we saw thee quietly interred, where you're put into, hath opened his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. Coffins, death, tombs are often considered as mouths because they consume people. You open up a big mausoleum and there's a doorway, and that's like a mouth, and you put a person into that, and death consumes everything. It's a very medieval depiction of hell or death or tomb, etc. So why have the jaws open, cast you up again? What may this mean, that thou, dead corpse, again in complete steel armor, revisits thus the glimpses of the moon? And this is earth lit by the flickering moonlight, making night hideous, and we, fools of nature, so horridly to shake our disposition. We fools of nature is just mere mortals who are, they are nature's fools. And that could just be a comment on the folly of man. It could be those who do not understand. They are fools of nature, the supernatural nature. They're terrified of encounters. They are natural as opposed to supernatural, these types of things. That we, fools of nature, so horridly, which is horribly, to shake our disposition, our mental foundations, with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. The supernatural is beyond their comprehension. Say, why is this? Wherefore? Wherefore means why. What should we do? And the ghost beckons, and that beckon is like, follow me. Horatio says, it beckons you to go away with it, as if some impartment did desire to you alone. Impartment is he wants to impart some communication to you. Marcellus says, look with what courteous action it waves you to a more removed ground, a ground that is removed from here. But do not go with it. Horatio agrees, no, by no means. It will not speak. Then I will follow it. It's not going to speak in front of you, so I will follow it. Do not, my lord. Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee, the value of just a pin, which would be very little. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again, I'll follow it. Horatio says, what if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, towards the sea, or to the dreadful summit of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrible form, some other horrible shape, which might deprive you your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness. Reason is sovereign, is king over the body. So if it deprives you of reason's sovereignty, you would go mad. So what if it draws you to a cliff over a sea and then drives you insane? Think of it. The very place puts toys of desperation, imaginings of despair and suicide, without more motive, more cause, into every brain that looks so many fathoms to the sea and hears it roar beneath. So the very place of sitting on the edge of a cliff just naturally puts into your brain the idea of jumping off the cliff into the sea. And if you've ever been on top of a tall building or on a cliff, you just naturally get that intrusive thought, which is like, oh, hey, you should jump. Even if you're not experiencing any suicidal tendencies or whatever, we have that very intrusive, compulsive thought simply because the place itself suggests it. So he's saying if you go to the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea, that's where it drives you. It's already a place that these thoughts will come into your mind, and then you add to it a ghost that might somehow drive you mad. He's worried that Hamlet will die. Hamlet insists, it waves me still, and he addresses the ghost. Go on, I'll follow thee. Marcellus, you shall not go, my lord. And Hamlet says, hold off your hands, which is probably a stage note saying that Marcellus has physically restrained him, or has made to physically restrain him. A lot of times Shakespeare hides his stage notes, which are actions for the actors to do. In modern plays, they'd put it in italics or parentheses to communicate, hey, this is generally what will happen here. Shakespeare just includes it in the actual text. So hold off your hands. Horatio says, be ruled, meaning be ruled by me, let me tell you what to do. You shall not go. Hamlet disagrees. He says, my fate cries out and makes each petty artery in this body, that's artery, as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. The Nemean lion is the wild beast that Hercules fights, whose skin was impenetrable. It's a ferocious beast. So his fate, to go with them, this smacks of some great call to the purpose of his life, makes every small little artery so weak, so small, so tiny, as hardy and as resolved as a ferocious beast that is impenetrable. The ghost beckons again. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen. So that means that he is being physically restrained. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I'll make a ghost of him means I will kill whoever tries to restrain me. You make a ghost of someone by murdering them. I say, away. And now, apparently, he breaks free. And he says to the ghost, go on, I'll follow thee. At which point exits Ghost and Hamlet. Horatio, he waxes desperate with imagination. Marcellus says, let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him. It does not fit us to obey his command to leave him alone. Horatio says, have after, which means go on, have after him. To what issue, to what end will this come? Marcellus has one of the most famous lines in the entire play. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. There is something very bad happening here. And this goes back to Act 1, Scene 1, when Horatio remarks that the appearance of this ghost is probably a portent or an omen of some end of Denmark occurring. Ghosts and the dead only walk at the end of empires and these types of things, as it was apparently according to his recounting at the fall of the Roman Republic right before the death of Julius Caesar. So there's something wrong here. We know this. We know Claudius is the king. Unnaturally, he shouldn't be. It should be Hamlet who's king. He's married to his former sister-in-law. Hamlet, the prince, is suicidal. There's something wrong here. This ghost is here. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Horatius says, heaven will direct it. It's going to direct our course. It's going to direct the events that will occur. That's a very pious, noble statement. Marcellus says, nay, let's follow him. So rather than leave it to heaven to direct the course of actions, let us take it into our own hands by following him and gaining more information, seeing what we need to do. They will exit and follow after him. Now, Act 1, Scene 5 comes next, and that is really kind of just a continuation of the present action. It happens immediately after, just in another room, down the corridor, at some removed ground. But that is going to be the subject of our next video. So to see the interaction between the ghost of Hamlet Sr. and the physical person of Hamlet Jr., you'll have to check in then. And we'll look forward to talking to you when that happens.